Well, hello and welcome back to Karate Ramblings. I'm Kieran McKenzie,
And I'm Brian Bates,
and to,
if I
yep,
don't know. Sorry.
and we are talking today about cross training and on top of that, effective cross training. So, Brian, why don't you kick us off in your own definition of cross training and what it is?
I would have thought that's kind of self-explanatory, really, isn't it? You're training in other arts, so you're crossing your training over to other aspects. Um, so for me, when I trained in other arts, karate was my main art, and I went into other arts to fill the gaps that were lacking in what I was originally doing. So
Mm,
yeah, I crossed over to other arts, so cross-trained.
mm.
So I
Yeah,
guess.
I mean, it's a silly question, but I'm sure everyone's heard of it because it's been a bit of a buzzword in the martial arts community for, well, decades now, I'm sure at this point. But it is that interesting idea that like the art that you're doing only depends on the school you go to, but the art that you're doing doesn't fill or tick all the gaps in a reasonably rounded skill set, isn't that right?
Yeah, I mean that's the reason why I started cross training, and I think um, again, I think every time I say this, I'm going to upset the Shotokan crowd, but I think there are a lot of gaps in Shotokan. You know, it's a great art. You know, I enjoyed it for many years, but then I started to realise that there were holes in what if I wanted to be an effective all-round martial artist, or even self-protection, there were gaps in what I was doing in my regular training.
Mm,
So yeah, I think from a Shotokan perspective, there were a lot of throws missing in my game. So the first thing I cross training was judo. So although karate is supposed to be full of throws. At the time, I didn't know it. It wasn't until I started doing judo that I realized, oh yeah, karate is full of throws. But I think I had to go to a specialist throwing art to realize that. And I know you've done
mm.
the same as well, haven't you, with throws?
Yeah. I mean, it's weird to think if I try and name all of them, I probably would try needed like an hour or so to piece together a decent timeline. But I've done a fair bit of judo myself. A lot of the arts and cross training that done over the years have been very, like you said, fill in that gap. Or if we didn't know something, or if I wanted to learn a certain skill, I'd go to another club or art to learn it because, well, if I didn't know it, then I now know it, and now it's a part of our training. I think that is also a big thing. Is like you don't just go out, do it, and then just never use the skill. You do it, and then you bring it back. You make it part of your skill set and what you teach and what you know.
Yeah. So I think I did judo for about a year and a half. I think it was about that,
Hmm.
thereabouts, year and a half to 2 years. And it was really to at first it was to learn throws. I thought I need to learn throws, but then it was more about understanding how throws work. So then once I understood how throws work, um, I felt like I could pick it out from karate more. So I could visualize it in kata and I could then apply it in my karate. But with only a limited amount of judo, and we apply throws in our class, in our sparring, and in our kata. Um, but we're never going to out throw or out skill a judoka, you know.
You
So
could give it a
because,
go.
well, we're not in their rule set. So
Hmm.
if we're applying, we're with the way we do throw, so we perhaps set them up with a temis, which is illegal in judo competitions, I believe. So,
Hmm. It depends on
but
how hard you grip them.
they'll get sneaky temis, don't they?
Yeah.
But yeah, if it was just a pure judo random judo tournament, would be at entry level, at white belt level. But um, for a karateka, I'd say for the majority of karateka, particularly Shotokan, we have a good skill set with our throws. So that was filling that gap through judo. But then I got an injury through through judo.
Hmm.
I think it's a common one. I got a dodgy shoulder. It just pulled a muscle, done a ligament, or whatever I'd done. It's just a bad break fall, and it ended my judo career basically.
Hmm.
I started it quite late. I think it was about 35 when I was doing judo. So then
Hmm.
I still wanted to understand throwing more. And then I decided locking would be a good thing as well. So throws and locks. So then I went to Aikido Jiu-Jitsu, and I have stuck with that one because it kind of one, I like the club, and the instructor is extremely good. You know, with what he
Mm.
teaches, he's fantastic, really, really good. Um, and again, it just opened up new levels of sort of skill sets and throwing, and then the locking as well. So I really understand how locks work. I probably don't need to train them anymore, but I think it training at that club on a regular basis the way I do, it keeps those skills sharp. So I feel
Mm.
like my judo type throws, like particularly the lifting throws, those skills aren't as honed as they would be if I carried on training it. But the knowledge is still there, so I understand how the throws work. We apply them in training. But yeah, I feel like I can definitely get locks on a lot better, and the Aikido Jiu-Jitsu type throws, there's a lot of postural disruption and
Mm.
tripping and trapping kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
less lifting. So
Mm. No,
so
absolutely. I think
mm,
that's a prime example there of effective cross training. I mean, you wanted to learn how to throw, and so you went to judo, but unfortunately you had the injury. So instead of carrying on and making it worse, or just saying, "Oh, I'm going to stop outright," you made a pretty good decision to go and do something else, which would be less impact on that injury, and also gave you an opportunity to work more in terms of joint lock. So, good effective cross training by any standards, because there's no point in doing your main art, going off and doing something else, and then finding out, oh, I've just gone and ruined
yeah.
a joint, or I've gone and hurt myself in a way that stops me from doing my main art. So then it becomes ineffective, you
And we
know?
talk about this all the time in the club as well when we're doing sparring and stuff like that. You know, it's diverting from cross training, but your training has to be effective, but it also has to
Mm.
be safe. There's no point training and injuring yourself. There's always going to be a risk of injury, but
Yeah,
we want to try and minimize that risk because injuring yourself in training, can take you out for a minimum. If it's a bad injury, a minimum of 6 weeks.
yeah.
Can take longer. So we've got a couple of people out from the dojo. One did get an injury in the dojo, one got an injury elsewhere, but they both got a
Mm.
knee injury and they're out for, one's just come back, but they're really having to mind what they're doing with training.
Yeah,
So I think,
absolutely.
yeah. So finding somewhere good to cross train as well, then,
Mm.
somewhere, a safe environment,
Yeah. I mean, safe
because,
environment, but also, sorry, go on.
yeah, no, I was going to say, because, yeah, you don't want to get injured while you're out trying to discover new things, So, I mean, you've
Mm.
trained in quite a few places, so you must have gone
Yeah.
to. You don't need to name names, but you must have gone to some places and thought, "Yeah, this isn't the best way to learn this skill set."
Yeah, yeah. I'm not going to name names, but I was at one club where I was cross training, and like the instructor, whilst he was very highly skilled with what he did, he wasn't exactly up for longevity. He was like encouraging people to sort of like hit each other harder, sort of thing. It's like, yeah, I know when people go and compete, in the ring for these sorts of things, they are trying to beat the living hell out of each other because it's the nature of competition, especially at full contact. But you don't train full contact. If you train full contact, you know, you are going to wreck yourself, you're going to wreck your body, and by the time you get, older, you're going to have one of those what's it called, like one of those frames to walk around with because your
The
joints are
Zimmer
just that
frame, yeah.
messed up. Exactly, yeah. So whilst I was at that club, and again, not naming names, I had some good experiences there, but predominantly I wouldn't have I probably wouldn't have stayed there like permanently, if that makes sense. I mean, the whole point of cross training for me is just to, bring things back to my main art. I mean, I've
Yeah.
done what's it called again? I've done various kickboxing. I did do a little bit of Chinese Wing Chun at one point, but that
I
was
remember
like a
actually, yeah.
couple of training sessions there. I've done a bit of Kyokushin. I've done full contact Kudo training and gradings for that. So on that is you are fighting full contact for the thing, and with the head guard, it does make things a little bit nicer than getting your nose smushed in. But I've done a fair bit of different things, including judo and
Sorry,
BJJ.
I just had a thought when you mentioned the Zimmer frame. I just thought there's a gap in the market now. We need Zimmer frame combatives. We just got, it just occurred to me. I should have kept my mouth shut then. So somebody's going to come up with that. If I see it within the next year, somebody's watched this podcast, and yeah. Although
Uh,
there is a the Irish stick fighting, or there is like a walking stick combatives. So people do with a cane or a stick, kind of derives from Bartitsu as well, doesn't it? So there was
mm,
the cane fighting in Bartitsu. So yeah, there is,
mm.
but yeah, nobody's done it with the Zimmer frame yet, to my knowledge. So
What
Zimmer
you
frame
need is
combatives.
as a Zimmer frame that breaks down into like a really like long nunchuck. So like
So
it
you've got
connects with
sections.
magnets, and then yeah, exactly, a section stuff. Just
Yeah,
do that. That'd be epic. I'd love one of them just to have, not to use, just to have. But
yeah, yeah.
anyway, so yeah, I
So
mean
your
there
cross
is
training has
yeah
been more in the combative side, as in combat sport, I should say,
yeah
rather than
yeah
combative. Because there's a difference.
absolutely.
Because a lot of my cross training has also been in the combative systems.
Mm,
So with urban combatives, and I've got an instructorship with on Tommy Joe Moore's World War II
mm,
combatives as well.
yeah, Project
So yeah,
Victory.
yeah, so I've had an interest in the combative side of the martial art, which I suppose you could say it's the self protection side of it, whereas yours has been, I suppose, being the younger in the conversation, more the sport side. So
Yeah. I mean, when I first started training with yourself, we were very much training with the likes of uh, Bob Davis and Andy Kidd quite a bit as well with the Bastards. And I felt like we were getting lots of self-protection training through those drills. We'd hire out the nightclub in Swindon and we do spend the entire day doing scenario drills and training. So I felt like I was getting enough like combatives or self-protection stuff from there. And I was reading a lot at the time, like different like Rory Miller books and the I don't know who wrote it, but the Little Black Book of Violence I got off my shelf over there. So at the time
that
I
wasn't
felt,
Chris Wilder. Was it Chris Wilder? Is that his book?
oh, I can't read it from here. I don't want to say without butchering their name because it's just too small. But
Yeah, yeah, fair enough.
I felt like I was immersing my head in a lot of like combatives and self-protection stuff enough so I felt like I knew enough to
Mm,
understand. Wouldn't be an expert in it by any means, but I knew enough to understand for me. But then it also felt like, okay, I kind of would like to go out and scrap, especially while I'm younger.
yeah.
So, that's when I went to different arts like judo, BJJ, kickboxing, Muay Thai, Kudo, all that. So, that I find helped round out my skill set. And it is just the thing of like, I mean, no offense to any of the combatives people, but I do find that it does get a little repetitive sometimes.
Yeah,
So
this
with
is something I was thinking actually, or I was going to say, is that everything I've done in combatives, whether it be World War II or whether it be modern urban combatives,
mm,
whenever I was doing it, I was always thinking, this is just karate. Everything I'm
mm,
doing now is karate. So it would be repetitive because it's the real basic stuff. It's the bare bones sort of gross motor skills, the easy stuff that is easy to teach, easy to retain,
mm,
and it's repetitive, so you're just
yeah,
drilling the basics constantly,
yeah,
and then you're doing them under pressure, you're doing them in scenarios under pressure, but it's a very small toolbox, a very small skill set,
mm,
and that's what I found. I wouldn't say I'm bored of it because I enjoy the people I train with when I go to these things,
mm,
and the guy that I do combatives with has got a brilliant mind, and he comes out with all these different power drills to make them live, and the different scenarios. So it's very very good. But whenever I'm doing it, that's the best part is the way he does these drills. But when I'm doing it, I'm thinking, yeah, I'm just doing aggressive karate. That's all I'm doing. And
yeah,
then even when I went to judo, now I understand throwing. I think, well, it's just karate at the end of the day. So all of the cross
mm,
training that I've done, if you've got a good system of karate, all of the cross training I've done, it's just karate. I think,
yeah,
um, but all of these systems of, I say with one exception, I haven't done this, and I know you have. I've done, I've done seminars. I've done a 10-week sort of course with Jamie Clubb.
hmm
Was Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, because the
mm,
ground fighting I think with karate is predominantly it was self protection back in the day. Yeah, so it wasn't a sport; it was all about self protection. So I'd say there'd be less or to know ground fighting and karate really.
Mm.
Um,
Well, actually, it's funny you mentioned that because I was just I saw every so often I like answering like people's questions on the karate subreddit, and I saw someone had posted, "Oh, is there any techniques in karate and ground fighting? If so, are they actually meant to be there sort of thing?" And I sort of responded with like, I mean, for me, karate has to be a well-rounded system. I mean, you can't have not, I mean, whether or not they were doing it 200 years ago or not doesn't really matter. That really doesn't matter. I almost wonder if they would encourage a bit more ground fighting then. But the point there is, if it's not inherent in like certain systems of karate, then go to judo, go to BJJ, go to wrestling, learn it,
yeah,
put it
well, I'd
into your
say
art.
we added it to our system because it wasn't there initially. So
Mm,
Ian Abernethy's done a very good. I think it's a good ground kata. But if you just do it as a kata, you'll get good at transitioning through those positions. But you need to start doing those things live as well. You know,
mm,
to really most important is to try for a karateka's point of view is always getting back to your feet.
mm.
But talking about groundwork and karate in Funakoshi's book Karate Do My Way of Life, he talks about the Okinawan wrestling that they would fight to get back to their feet. I think,
Tegumi, yeah.
yeah, and I think at one point he said he had tried, two or three people trying to pin him down while he gets back to his feet or something like that. I'd have to read the book again, but there was definitely in Funakoshi's youth, but I don't think it was necessarily part of his karate. I think that was just
Oh, appear to have lost
another
Brian.
Okinawan pastime, one of their systems of wrestling. It could have crossed over into the original karate. I don't know, but I know, like I say, for sure in his book he talks about it and he talks about doing it. So
Mhm.
if it was
We
good enough
did,
for him,
yeah,
we,
did lose you
we should be doing
for
it.
half a second there, Brian, but we heard the main thing that you said.
Right.
I was going to say, that actually sounds like a funny joke. It would be funny to see the juniors do. One person try and get up, or four people try and pin
Just a,
them.
just a bundle. That's like a school playground bundle, isn't it? Really,
Oh
or it was when
yeah,
I was at school back in the
but
80s or back in the
yeah,
70s. Yeah.
but absolutely, I mean, we've learned these things. I mean, you've learned them from Jamie Clubb, Sensei Luke, who trains with us as well. He's been doing judo for how long has it been? 4 months, 5 months? I lost
Possibly,
track.
yeah. I'd say at least half a year, I reckon. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Yeah.
think,
Half a year.
yeah. Let's give him that. He's
Yeah.
competed as well, actually. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. He
So well done
competed.
to him.
Yeah.
Big
Well
up,
done to Luke.
big up, Luke. Yeah.
I'm sure he's listening to us. He's probably thinking, why are they praising me? You know.
Well, he got a nice Sasai, didn't he, in his tournament, and that was
Yes.
that was quite sweet actually. I think he was very proud of that. So,
Yeah.
um,
Nah. Oh, it was awesome. But it's the thing. If it's not in the system, I mean, if you take any kind of basic like Shotokan club where they do all the marching up and down, then you just look for the gaps in the game. Are they hitting pads? No. Okay, let's start bringing pads into what they do. Are they grappling and are they throwing? No. Okay, let's go and teach that they need to go and learn a few throws. I mean, not all of them needs to know it, but if they learn a couple of throws, if their instructor goes off and does a little bit of judo, gets a bit proficient in a couple of throws, then great. And then same thing with the grounds. You don't need everyone going to cross train at once, but if the
no.
person who's teaching and running the show goes and learns it and is good at it, bring it back.
So I'd like to think what we've created in Zanshin Karate is a good, well-rounded system
Mm,
of karate. Karate how it should be or how it was once upon a time.
mm,
So I'd like to think, yeah, like any of our students wouldn't have to go off and cross train unless they wanted to specialize in something.
mm. I mean,
So there's
yeah,
there's throwing in our system. There is a bit of groundwork in our system. There's stand-up grappling. There's all of this stuff which makes it a well-rounded system. I feel, but if somebody thought I'd want to be better on my groundwork, because we don't really fight on the ground for submissions, as such. But now and again
mm,
we'll play with it, but most of the time it's all about getting back to our feet, or
mm,
the person on top is generally trying to pin while the person on bottom's trying to get back to their feet.
yeah.
Um, so if somebody thought, oh, I'd like to actually learn how to do some submissions, I don't think it's something that I wouldn't necessarily encourage that in our system, but if somebody wanted to be better at it, I'd certainly say, yeah, go away. And, I
Mm,
know somebody good in our town that teaches, I know somebody in every sort of art in our town that's
mm,
a good, um, good Muay Thai, good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, good judoka, so
mm.
I could send them to the right place,
Yeah,
that would be my job as an instructor as well, if they wanted to specialize.
absolutely. I mean, something that you touched on earlier was that a place has to be safe, but also, just as importantly, it has to be a trusted place because some people will just take people in, charge them a ton, and give them substandard training, as opposed to giving them the skills that they're there for. Give them a fitness class, or they'll give them no contact classes and things like that. So it is important that that happens, and also. I know we always forget this as well, but also it's not an expensive place because I mean you're going you're by this point you'll be paying likely for two club memberships and insurances, so you don't want to spend too much on your equipment and
Exactly.
on a
Yeah.
new
Yeah.
gi, and also the fact that it takes you out for another night of the week. Because I'm sure some people do like to go and maybe go to the gym or spend time with family and things like that. So people, it is a big bit of a sacrifice, but
To be
it is
fair,
something worth doing.
I think it was Mal that was saying this to me the other day at Waltham Cross,
Mm,
that this is the thing when you go to join karate, say, you've got all this equipment to buy, or particularly Kudo, because some of their stuff, like their head guards, are not cheap. Then you got
mm,
to get your gloves, you got to get your groin guard, you got to get your gi, and all the stuff that you've got that comes with it all adds up, and it's quite an expensive art to start. Whereas he said, I think this is why MMA is quite popular, is a rash guard and a pair of shorts, and you get your gloves, machine guards. That's it. You're ready to go. I think the
mm.
gi can be quite an expensive part of sort of starting up a traditional martial art as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been trying to decide if I want to buy a new gi right now, but if I want to get a one of the like even if I want to get a Blitz one, I'm looking at shelling out 60, 70 quid for a uniform. And if
Mm.
I want to get I've been looking at other sites, but if I want to get another one from other places, it could be like north of 100 quid sometimes. It's like, oh, it's a lot of
Yeah,
money. I mean,
yeah.
also,
Well, yeah,
Steve Goodhand, I think with some of his classes that he runs, I think he does a karate for MMA class like once or twice a week, and it is just shorts, t-shirt, MMA gloves, and shin
yeah.
guards. You
So it's
know,
cheap, isn't it? It's cheap to
yeah,
do. But yeah, that's the other thing about cost, like you just touched on there, is the expense. If you're going to do other things, if you say you was going to start judo, you can't go in your karate gi, so
mm,
you'd have to get a judo gi, because they're built for judo, So if you was going to go and do Brazilian jiu-jitsu as well, again, it's another gi, it's just
mm,
it's the expense. But
yeah,
like I say, it's like you said about effective cross training. If there's a gap in your skill set that you want to fill. But interestingly, I've spoke to Gavin Mulholland
mm.
at a gig. Funny enough, he was playing a gig St Patrick's
No,
Day last
nice.
year. Um, but he's a Goju Ryu practitioner, and he was saying, it doesn't feel in traditional Goju Ryu there are any gaps. He feels like because his guys have fought in the cage, and his guys have been very successful in the cage. Um, but I watched a little clip of one of his tournaments. Actually, it was only a short clip, but the
Mm,
guys ended up on the ground, and there was a submission on the ground. So
nice.
and that's karate. So again, I wonder. I suppose if they feel, oh, maybe I need to be better on the ground because our karate does go to the ground. But some people think that what they're doing is complete. Like I say, I think what we're doing is pretty good. It's not bad.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah,
until you come up
absolutely.
against, I suppose it depends what you want out of your training as well, and that's
Yeah.
the other thing about effective cross training. Am I training for
Yeah.
self protection? Does my club fill that criteria? Do I need to go somewhere else? Am I training for sport? Does my club fill that criteria?
Mm.
I
I
think we're
mean,
a bit of a jack of all trades, is
yeah,
what we are. But
absolutely, we are. I mean, if I'm being perfectly honest, my main motivation for going to train is for fun.
yeah,
Literally, I mean, it is just so much fun what we do, and because we are get as the years have gone on, we've only gotten better like fine wine, honestly, because we've just sharpened up. Everything's been sharpened up. Everything's more well-rounded. The club, like you said, you keep telling me every so often the club keeps going from strength to strength. And, it is, if someone comes to us, it is unlikely that they'll want cross training. I mean, we don't compete very often. I will say that's our only, I suppose, thing that we don't do as much. I mean, but, that's just one thing that we don't do very often. We
It's
still
a
compete, but
problem finding the right tournament, to be
mm,
honest. I think you've come across some guys recently that you trained with. You might talk about that at the end. I don't know.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
they did invite us to a tournament that's happened quite soon, and that seems more like the kind of skill set that we've been leaning towards. So that's the problem: is finding a tournament that will let you compete. Although sometimes these places say they're open, they're not. So um, maybe they're open if they feel like you're not a threat. I don't know, so it's not always an
Mm,
open tournament. And then again, it's, trying to find one that's safe for your students to compete in as well, and with a fair referees and judges and stuff like that. So it's very difficult to try and find places to compete.
yeah.
And again, maybe we could, it would go off at a tangent if we did, but Mao was talking about the way Sambo's gone as well. That
Mm,
I can't remember what he called it, the intro. So because a lot of the time you have to have a specific gi top, you have to have specific shorts, and I think
yeah.
this was like a way in to fight in sambo without having the specific stuff. It was like
Yeah.
a novice level kind of thing.
All
Um,
right. Okay.
yeah,
That sounds
so
interesting.
somebody like AJ couldn't compete in it because he's already won a title. So
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you, I
True.
think it's if you haven't competed in two tournaments, there was this entry level tournament, which is a lot cheaper and it can get people into the sport, get people into the
Mm,
art. Um, that's going off
yeah.
a bit of a tangent on tournaments, but yeah, we don't really compete that much. But there's a couple of tournaments that we've been invited to and that we like.
Mm,
They're very well run. One's with Doug Connell, isn't it, with Shogun Practical Karate, and then the
yeah.
others with
Absolutely.
Steve Goodhand,
Yeah.
um, aka Applied Karate Association, isn't it?
Yeah. Or
Yeah,
he's got a couple of different names, AKA Applied Karate, or AKA Applied Karate Academy, or
that's it.
AKA Karate Jutsu, or AKA Combat
Okay,
Sports. I'm
Steve, Steve,
sorry, but
Steve's
yes.
tournament, Steve
So,
Goodhand.
yeah, so if
Yeah,
you search AKA Bournemouth, you'll find him absolutely. But
yeah.
yeah, we're competing there next month. We're getting a little squad together. And
Mm,
yeah, I mean, we usually do pretty decently at these things, but we're trying to recruit a few more, I think,
we can
this
get
year. But
a little
absolutely, I mean,
report
people,
on that.
yeah, I mean, the guys that we've got have got the skills for it, so I don't see why not absolutely they can do it. Yeah, if I just talk about the seminar I went to last month, Brian,
Yeah, what we doing? How we doing for time? We good?
we have we've still got a bit of time yet. We've not yet hit the 10-minute marker,
Okay, we've
but
got plenty to talk
yeah.
about then. Yeah.
Absolutely. So last month I was very lucky to get to go to a seminar run by a gym called North Star Martial Arts, run by Coach Liam. North Star Martial Arts. I mean, I spoke to him briefly because I thought about it, but for any old like anime or manga fans, North Star Martial Arts, he named it after Fist of the North Star, which is like a really old sort of comic slash show, which I don't know, we're talking 80s at least. So I thought,
Right.
oh, okay, that's pretty clever because that's again sort of it's a comic about martial arts, so absolutely amazing. But Sensei, oh, we are now at our 10-minute marker. So, but anyway, Sensei Liam, he put on a 3-hour seminar for free. Although I made a massive blunder because I showed up at the wrong time because this was a
Yeah.
rescheduled time. So I thought it started at 10. Turns out it started at 3. So that was a good opportunity for me to leave and spend the morning watching the new Sonic film. So that was a good use of it. But
Yeah.
other than that, yeah. So the seminar itself, Sensei, I don't remember. I mm, I do apologize, but the sensei for Derbyshire Karate, really nice bloke. He ran a first session, which was Kyokushin, and then we moved on to the SVT knockdown stuff. So SVT, Standing Vale Tudo, which Coach Liam told me was what they called this style of competition in Japan, Vale Tudo. I know it's a Brazilian term, but it is what they used in Japan. So the whole thing about the SVT is there's different categories, but it's based in Kyokushin and shoot boxing. So think of it as full contact standing MMA. The moment someone gets thrown to the floor or falls down, fight stops. We get them back up again. If they're able to fight, fight continues. But really interesting rule set. They've got three different categories. There's category C, which was a Kyokushin style with MMA gloves. You can punch and kick to the body, and you can do standing throws. There's category B, which is the same thing, but with I think it's bare knuckle, and I think you can kick to the head. Well, might be wrong on that one. And there's category A, which is it's very close to like Kudo or Sambo in that you can kick and punch to the face, body, throws, takedowns, and standing submissions. They don't seem to be a they do know how to fight on the ground, but they do the way it works because it's based off shoot boxing, their style of shoot boxing. They prefer doing standing up joint locks. So yeah, no, it's a really good seminar, some really good training there. But the fact that they put it on for free and they just say, doesn't matter who you are, come by. That's one of those organizations that I don't think are afraid to get people through the door, sort of thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that kind of full contact karate, for maybe it's because we're kind of getting more involved in those circles, but I feel it's becoming more popular.
Mm.
With the Kudo-S kind of, so you've got the Kudo, the Sambo with the head guards, and you're talking about this SVT tournament. I've seen the Kombudo, Lee Hasdall's stuff as
Yeah.
well. And it just seems it's becoming a bit more popular that, people perhaps want this more, and I think karate from an amateur level, to be more popular, it needs to. I mean, I was going to say there's nothing wrong with the WKF. There is, from my point of view,
Mm.
but it's each to their own. Do you know what I mean? But for
Yeah.
me, I'd like to see karate excel at what it's good at. Do you know what I mean? It's really good at this kind of, there was the Goju-Ryu, again, to bring it back to Goju-Ryu. I've seen a Goju-Ryu tournament, which is very similar as well, wasn't it? I can't remember what that was called, but they had the headgear on.
Irakumi Go.
Irakumi, yes, yeah.
Yeah, Irakumi
Um,
Go. Yeah.
yeah,
I
and the
think
Justin
there's
Kumite that we talked about before. So all of this stuff, to me, maybe could like I say because we're looking for it, or we're getting more involved in that kind of stuff.
mm,
It just seems like it's growing a little bit, and this is what I like about the traditional arts doing this is because of the gi. It's like having some clothing to grip hold of. Maybe not a
mm,
t-shirt; it's a bit flimsy, but you can still rag somebody around with a t-shirt if you get a good handful
yeah,
of it. Um,
absolutely.
in the UK, 6 months of the year, people are wearing coats, so it's just like a gi
Mm,
jacket. So I
you
think
know,
this stuff is for me, it's becoming more popular. I
I
see it
do
more.
almost wonder because I know we sort of stopped talking about it to avoid, people making reaction videos, but with karate combat in quotation marks, despite the fact that the traditional guys have stopped watching it, I do think it is still as popular as ever, especially with the
Yeah,
MMA guys. I do
I think
wonder
they
if that
keep
has
changing the rule sets,
encouraged.
don't they? They keep
Mm,
putting new things in. So like they've got
yeah,
knees and stuff. I think can they do standing clinch now and knees?
yeah, standing
They're
clinching
allowed
knees and
thigh kicks now.
elbows.
So yeah, I think it's just the format. I like Bas Rutten and it's the other commentators, but
Mm,
I don't know, there's something about it which just for me, I still don't like.
mm,
But and I think it'd be a whole lot better if they wore gi top as well.
yeah,
Just because it's a tool, isn't it? It's part
mm,
of the traditional karate um, uniform, and it's a useful bit of kit to work with. As a
yeah,
fighter, to grab hold of it. When they go to the ground, they might be able to get submission by choke. Or certainly holding on to it and then start striking from it, or
mm,
holding on to do their throw. So
yeah.
it'd be nice if they used it. So,
But
so that was
anyway,
your, yeah, we're going to be running out of time actually. So that was
yep,
your most recent seminar, but
yep,
we did a more recent with Mal, didn't we?
yes, we
We
did.
always talk about Mal, it always gets a mention,
Mal
but we did,
bingo.
yeah, Mal bingo, yeah, there you go. Tick your cards off, guys. We talked, yeah. So yeah, but that was awesome, really, really good. He's such a knowledgeable martial artist and a really good
Mm,
guy. The
yeah,
Kudo seminar at Waltham Cross, hosted by Terry Monksfield.
yeah, Morse
Um,
Terry.
Yeah, so Terry's got another one coming up soon. So you got hit him up on his socials. You'll find out. I think the next one is Tommy and Les. He's got
Mm,
Ian teaching there as well. Tommy on his own, Les on his own, myself and Lee Taylor doing a session there. So there's a lot of that. Terry's putting on a lot this year. But the first
mm,
one was Mal. And like I say, his guys are phenomenal, aren't they? So a couple of our students came away just saying how brilliant AJ and Ethan are, and what a great
mm.
coach Mal is. Um, Even feeling a bit novice sparring with AJ, and because I mean AJ is awesome, and he's what is a British Sambo champion.
Yeah, British Sambo
Yeah,
champion. He's fought internationally too, a good few times. I'm pretty sure he's second in command at GKA. So,
so
you
sparring with
know,
him is. I mean, I didn't get. I actually injured myself literally the last 10 minutes. So I was really gutted.
ah,
And it's so I didn't really get to do the final kudo sparring. We did plenty of other stuff just beforehand. Um, but yeah, they're such great guys, and it was a really good session.
yeah,
So
absolutely. I would always recommend training with them whenever you get the chance. And Waltham Cross isn't too far. So, yeah,
for us, anyway, don't know
absolutely.
about
Yeah.
your listeners or our listeners. It could be an airplane journey. You never know. You
Well,
never
get
know
on the
who's
bloody plane then. Stop complaining.
listening.
We just talked
Yeah,
earlier about effective cross training not being too expensive. So,
that's it. Yeah, yeah. So even
uh,
that, so seminars is a good way to get your effective cross training as well.
yeah.
But you're not getting it for long enough. So I did quite a lot with Ian Abernethy actually, and I
Mm,
wasn't really cross training because it was still karate, but it was
yeah.
opening my eyes to other things within karate. So
Yeah, I think seminars, if you're doing seminars, they're a great way to, if you're already doing karate or another martial art and you go to a karate seminar, they're a great way to open your eyes to, oh, this way of training or this the way this organization or this club does it. Great. Um, if you are, what's it called again? Oh, I lost where I was. But if you are already in that system and you want a refresher on those skills, just find the person doing the seminar again and just see if they're doing anything similar. But
yeah,
we are cutting down on time. We've got about just under 2 minutes. Brian, any events coming up soon, mate?
personally, I've got this seminar I'm teaching with Lee Taylor. So it's a
Mm,
kata-based pad drill seminar, but that's not till June, I believe. So June
yeah.
in Waltham Cross, hosted by Terry Monksfield. And later in October, I've actually got an email after this to try and book a venue. I'm doing a seminar with Joe Andrews and Greg Lynham of Somerset Applied Karate. So it's like a combative karate seminar.
Mm.
So that's a long way away yet. But I think, yeah, before that, I don't know if you're going to the Tommy and Les seminar, you're going to head down to that?
When
Down
is
at,
it?
so, don't know. It's Waltham Cross,
If
possibly next month.
it's in the next month, I'm probably gonna have to say no. I've got a lot
Yeah.
of things going on. Later on this
But
month,
it'll
I'm
be
going
a
to
good
the. Yep. Oh, we lost Brian again. Brian, Brian. Okay, I do apologize, guys. We appear to have lost him. But if I just quickly talk about what I'm doing, so I am doing a combative karate seminar later this month with Joe and Greg from
anyway.
Somerset Applied Karate.
So tell me what.
Oh, is he? No, he's not back.
I
Brian, you've gone, mate.
think I'm back. Yeah, yeah.
Yep, you're
But we
back.
better go. I suppose it's time.
Yep, okay, we'll
Right.
we'll
I
call
suppose we
it
better go
there.
then, eh?
We'll
It's that
call it there.
time.
So yeah, I'm training with Somerset
Yeah.
Applied later this month, so that'll